Hi, this is PD at BurgZerg Arcade at BurgZergArcade.com, and this is tutorial 160. Now, this is just a continuation from our last tutorial, and where we left off, we actually had our game spawning the one mob, or one of the meshes for our character. And of course, we're storing these in our little character mesh array here. So let's go ahead and open up MonoDevelop, and let's set it up so that we can actually click a button and cycle between the two different meshes. So I'm going to do this with the onGUI method. And I'm just going to create a button. And we'll get to the position in a second. And we'll want some string. But when this button is clicked, I want to call a new function that just basically tells it to change the mesh. So I'm going to make a new private function. And I'm just going to call this change player. Let's change character mesh. And every time this button is clicked, this is the method I'm going to be calling. Actually, let's make it even cleaner in our onGUI, and let's just call this one method. And we'll move the if block down here. Now, when this if block is clicked, all we're going to do is increase the index by 1, and then we'll call the instantiate command. And let's go ahead and fill out the location. I'm just going to stick it at the bottom of the screen in the center. So we'll just do screen width divided by 2. And I'm going to make the button, let's do 120. So I'm going to want to subtract half of that, which is 60. And I'm going to make it 30 high. And I want it to be about at least, well, let's go 5 pixels from the bottom. So I'll do screen height minus the 35, and then we'll put in the actual width and height to the button. And for now, I'm just going to say change model. So if we were to save this off and go into Unity, it kind of gives us what we want, but not 100%. So we'll just start it up. I'm not going to maximize it. As you see, we have our little player here. And if we open up the character mount, we have the mesh down here. And let's hit change model. We click it, and we see the fat guy. Well, if you look down here, we now have 2 meshes. That's not what we want. And of course, if we clicked it again, we're going to get an error that the index is out of range. So let's add a little bit of code first to fix the index. So I'm going to come down to instantiate model. And I only have 2, but I'm going to use a switch case. And what I'm going to switch on is my character model index. And my first case is going to be 1. And I'll throw my break in there. And the next case for now will be default, since I only have 2 models. And I'll throw my break in there. And I'll just throw one line down here. So the way the switch case block works, of course, is you have this variable you're switching on, and it looks for the case that matches it. So we start off at 0, so it's going to come down and go, oh, are we at 1? And if we are, we'll do everything that's in here before the break. And if we're not, we're going to go down to the other. So if we had a case 2, case 3, case 4, it would look to see where the character model index, what it's equal to. And if it doesn't find one, it's going to use the default by, well, it's going to go all the way through and just pick the default one. So when I hit the default one, I am automatically going to change it back to equaling 0. And this will fix the error that we get here with the index out of range. But I also want to display something besides change model here. I actually want to say what model I'm displaying, if it's the fat one or the skinny or muscular one, sorry. So I am going to create another private variable up here. And this will be of type string. And I'm just going to call this one char model name. And I am going to start it off as a muscular one. And I'm actually going to copy that and I'll paste it down here in the default as well. I will tab it in and we no longer need the private string part of it. And I'll take it as well, put it up here, and I'll just change this to fat. And then of course I'll take the name part and let's go ahead and replace what's here. Now let's save that off. We'll go back into Unity. I'll hit clear on the console and we'll start it up. And if we watch, we have the muscular one down here. We hit it. We get the fat one. The muscular is still there. But if we hit it again, there's no longer an error. And we'll notice that it's actually showing the muscular one again. But it's adding it down here. So let's add some code to get rid of the old one before we put the new one in. So I'm going to do it after our little switch case block here, but before we instantiate the new one. And all I'm going to do is check to see if we have any children under our character mount point, which this script is attached to. And if we do have any, let's just delete them. So if transform dot get child count is greater than 0, so that means if we have at least one child, I don't really see an instance where we would have more than one, but just in case, let's add a for loop here to delete them all. So for integer cnt is equal to 0, cnt is less than, and I'll just cut and paste this in, and then increase our counter. And I'm just going to say destroy, and we'll use transform dot get child, and it wants the index, and we'll just pass the index that we're on, which is cnt. We'll save that off. I forgot one of my parentheses here, so we'll save that off. We'll head back into Unity and let's try it out. We have an error actually. Let's just take a look here. Let's just change this greater than to not equal. And we'll come back. We'll save it off again. And let me just take a quick look here. And this was not supposed to be get child count. It was actually just child count. So we'll just say child count. And you can either use the does not equal 0 or is greater than. And I am going to have to replace this down here as well. And here again. Okay, now let's save that off and we'll go check it out one more time. And we have another error. So let's see what we're doing here. This actually is get child, sorry about that. And all the errors are gone. So let's just start it up. And we'll open it up. We notice there's the muscular male. It says muscular here when we have the muscular male model showing. So let's go ahead and we'll click. And it's showing the fat model. And we only have the fat model down here. And of course, if we click again, it gets rid of the old one. And we have the muscular male down here. Now we are getting the warning that we could not find the mount point for the weapon, and that's fine. We're going to be taking care of that in this little series as well. And of course, we can just keep switching back and forth. I just want to quickly check the animation, so I'm going to maximize it and hit play. And he is moving. And I'll check the fat one. And he is moving as well. So we'll just stop that. We'll head back into MonoDevelop. And it appears that we're actually just over 10 minutes, but I guess that's one of the benefits of being a partner is we don't really care about time. So let's go up to our OnGUI, and I'm going to want to rotate this guy around a bit. So I'm just going to put it right up here, and I'm going to create two buttons for it, one to rotate left, one to rotate right, and I want them at each end of the character model name. So I'm just going to put these up here. If GUI button, and I'll take care of the new rect in a minute. The string I want, this is going to be the one for the left. So I want the little left arrow. And of course, I'm not creating these for the user to see. This is for me for testing in the background. And of course, if you do decide to adapt this to your character generation scene, you want to throw some styles and make it look nice. But for now, I'd like to get the functionality done. So as far as the new size goes, I'm going to make it, see, it was 30 high, so I'm going to make this button 30 by 30. So that means I'm going to go screen dot width divided by 2, and I'm just going to subtract the 60 that we have there. And since I'm moving it over another 30, and let's give it a 5 pixel buffer between this new button and the one that displays whether it's fat or muscular. So that's going to be another 35, so we'll just actually say 95. And that'll put it right where we want it. And we're going to do screen height divided by 2. And the width will be 30, and the height will be 30. Now, for a little FYI, computationally, it's actually easier to multiply by 0.5 than it is to divide by 2. Now, since we're not really doing anything extraneous here, it's not really going to matter. But I'll just put it in there to demonstrate how it works. And when we do hit that, we're going to want to rotate the model. So if we look down here, the only time we actually get a reference to the model is in this function. So let's go ahead and move this model. Let's move it up here, and we'll make it a private. And that means I can now come down here and just get rid of this game object. And now I can access its transform over here. So I'm going to say model.transform.rotate. And we're going to want to rotate on vector3 up. We'll want to rotate on that axis, which is, think of it up as the axis going up and down, so that would be the y-axis. And we want it to be smooth on all computers, so we're going to say time.delta time. Now we're going to want to add some sort of modifier here, because that's going to be such a small number. So to start with, I'm going to increase it by 100. So we'll multiply this by 100 as well. And I'll just end that. And I'm actually going to cut and paste it. Actually, I do have an error here. Let's see what it was. It's that 8 again. There we go. And we're missing a parenthesis over here. There we go. So I'm going to copy and paste this right below it. And this one is actually going to be on the other end of the fat and muscular button. So it's going to be the greater than sign. And the only thing we really have to change here is where it's positioned as far as the X spot goes. And instead of being positioned, let's see what the other one was. Well, the default one is 60. And what we're going to want to do is move over 60. That will get us to the end of the button, but we're going to want to add another 5 pixels to give it the same distance between the two buttons as we did for the one above it. And this time we're going to rotate, we can just do negative here. Or if you want, you can actually say vector 3 down now. and that would make the arrow point down, so when you're rotating, you're actually rotating the other way. But either way will work. Let's go into Unity and let's check it out and see if it works. So I'm going to let it recompile. We did not get any errors. And the buttons aren't in the right spot. So I've put them on the wrong spot on the Y part. So let me just take a look here. We weren't supposed to multiply by 0.5 there. What we're actually doing is supposed to subtract 35. And I like my spaces. So I'll fix this one here too. And put my space in. I'll save that off, let it recompile again, and then we'll start it back up. And there we go. We have the buttons in the middle of the screen. The character's a little off center, but that's fine because later on I want to move my camera over so that I can put all my other GUI stuff beside the character for switching out different pieces of equipment. But let's just go ahead and try it. We'll hit the rotate button, and it's not rotating. But we are still changing, so let me just take a look at that rotate code one more time. You can actually just go into Unity and we'll keep it unmaximized, hit play, and if you want to see if it's actually rotating, just select it and watch its rotation here. So we'll hit the button, and it's actually not it is rotating, and it's because it's a button. What we actually wanted was a repeat button, because we just want to be able to hold that button down and have it rotate around. So I'm actually just going to change this from a button to a repeat button, which we just went over a little while ago. So it should be pretty fresh in people's mind. And of course, just like the last time we used it, we put a delay on it. So if you're finding that you don't like how fast it's rotating, you can either change the 100 that we're adding to it to a smaller number, or maybe you want it to be kind of hitchy when it rotates, and you could actually put a delay in between the calls to the rotate. But I'm just going to quickly maximize this and take one final look at it. So there's our muscular guy. Let's rotate him. Now when we hit the button to get the fat guy, it's going to start off facing forward, and that's fine. If you wanted to keep facing the direction that it was in originally, you could just cache the rotation that the character is in right now, and when you're re-instantiating it, or at least switching over to the new model, switch its rotation into whatever rotation the other model had. So that's actually not too bad. I'm actually going to add that line of code right now, just to show you how it's done. So here's where we're creating it, and here's where we're destroying the other one. Now before we go ahead and destroy it, like I said, I don't foresee us ever having more than one down here. So right here, actually right above this, what I'm going to do is create a vector 3. And for some reason, IntelliSense is not working. There we go. I probably spelled something wrong. And I'm going to call it old POS. And this is actually going to be equal to our old model, which right now will be the current model, dot transform dot rotation. And then down here, instead of having it be, let me see here. Instead of setting it up to be equal to our transform rotation, I'll just quickly comment that out. And well, we'll just cut and paste actually. We're going to set it to be equal to the old position, which I'm actually going to change because it wasn't the old position, it was the old rotation. Too much cough syrup. Now this is actually going to error the first time through because we don't actually have anything assigned to the model. So I'm also going to add, well, let's just do it this way. We'll end it here, and we'll say if model equals null, we'll say old rot is equal to transform dot rotation. So that there it's getting the rotation of the parent game object. But if it's not equal to null, meaning that we actually have a model there right now, So I'll just use the else. Then this is where I'll set it to equal the new one. And we should actually just be able to get rid of that line now. So let's go back into our game. We'll do a quick recompile. Apparently there were some errors. Cannot convert type unique. Okay, that was probably bad. It's actually a quaternion, not a vector 3, which is fine. We'll just make it a quaternion. When I see the 3 variables, I just automatically think vector 3. But we'll start it off. And it goes full screen, so let's rotate him a bit. And we'll switch, and there he is, fat guy. And let's make him point this way. Ooh, look, muscular guy. Fat guy. Muscular guy. Fat guy. Anyway, this video should be long enough to keep you busy, so I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.